Welcome, man. I'm excited. Welcome to the Ashcast. This is my first time getting the chance to bring somebody from the COD community on.
Let's
And
go.
I could think of no one better than my good friend Matt, aka Burns Potthoff. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Just getting through another week of esports. I recently closed on a home and we're repainting it. And obviously, the esports industry moves really fast. So it's just been full grind mode 24/7.
Full grind sounds about right. A house? Like, bro, I'm not
I
ready
know,
for
big
that.
stuff. I'm getting married in 2 months. Just bought a home. Life's hitting me really hard right now. That's for sure.
Yeah, you're going like in UFC terms, you're going all 5 rounds. Main event
Yep.
right there.
Getting in the trenches.
I just know how stressful our wedding was. And so I can't imagine adding the whole stress of buying a house on top of that. You're a brave soul, my friend.
Yeah, it's been a process. 100%.
I can only imagine. Well, we both actually have, while we're recording this, it's Thursday the 4th, and we both have the COD League, the CDL League on our other monitors. And I think LAG actually just 3-0'd the LA Thieves.
Yeah, it's a massive upset for sure.
I'm kind of blown away by that. Like, that's not a 3-0 is like there. It's like one thing to lose a series, right? But like getting 3-0'd is kind of like that level of like, yeah, you didn't really have a chance in this. It's just I did
Yeah,
not expect that.
I think there's a lot of high expectations for the Thieves, and it's a world champion roster. You got Kenny, TJ Howie, Slasher, and then I know Temp he's won a major last year, so it's a really strong team. They probably just have a lot of pressure on them to perform, and one map splits away, and sometimes that mental fortitude just starts to crumble a little bit.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, I mean, you would know best, right? Because your career started with competitive Call of Duty and competing, right?
Yes, it did. I guess to give some backstory on myself, I started playing Halo and Call of Duty Lands when I was 12 to 14 years old. My friend actually gave me a newspaper article that Play and Trade was having a Halo tournament, and I grabbed some of my buddies, went up there, placed second, and then that just got me totally immersed and addicted to, competing and figuring out ways to avoid getting a minimum wage job and just trying to win every small tournament that I could to tell my parents like, hey, I don't need to work here. Like I can game and everything's going to be okay. So I lived that life for 4 years, went to school, got my bachelor's degree at Full Sail for entertainment business. And then that's really, once I got my degree out of the way, I fully gave pro gaming and COD all of my attention and went through a 4-year span of playing for, as you stated before this call, 17 different teams, 14 different organizations, and it was one hell of a ride. But I'm really proud of myself because I got to scratch off a lot of goals that I set for myself. I got to travel the world. I got to make money playing games at a high level. And outside of winning a team championship as a player, I crossed off every goal, and I was really happy, that I got to live that life.
So, as somebody who was not a pro player but a pro coach, I'm as close as I can be to that without having thumbs. Tell me, I know what my favorite event was. Tell me what your favorite event was, because there's got to be that one that like holds that special moment or memory for you.
Yeah, for me, it's the team was Automatic Reload,
Okay.
and it was Advanced Warfare Champs. We ended up placing 5th, and for me, that was my highest placement at any champs in Call of Duty. We went on to finish our pool play really strong. Played Optic Nation for the first round, and everyone, of course, is thinking TP and Karma and Killa are just going to wipe us clean, and we ended up winning a massive series, Game 5, and after that, we went on to win 2 more big series, ended up playing Denial for top 3, and we won first map, but unfortunately let the next 3 slip away. And it's funny because Clay was on eUnited for a while, and I occasionally brought it up when we played. But it's funny to me because Team Revenge
Yeah.
is the team that went on to play Denial in the grand finals. And if my team, or in winners finals, sorry, if my team would have won that match, we would have had automatic reload versus team revenge, like two teams that shouldn't have been in winners finals, but somehow got there. So to me, even though we didn't win, we made a really good run. I made the most money that I ever made in my career at that event. So that's the one that always sticks with me the most, is that I was able to prove that I was, at least in my head, a top 5 objective player during that weekend, and it was a big highlight for me.
Makes sense. I mean, being able to take down Optic Nation, like you had big matches, and I'm sure there was probably some other ones too, but game 5
Yeah.
versus I've never been on the receiving end of the green wall. So give me some insight on what that was like, because you're on land, right? So you've got all of them standing there booing, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, playing against Optic in general it's just a completely different mentality, because one, it's really the fans. Like, I feel like every time like Scump or Karma or Formal, like they get 2 or 3 kills in a row and you hear that crowd just go insane. If you don't have the ability to block that out, you're not going to stand a chance. And I also feel like it gives Optic like human power, superhuman strength, because they just get so energized. Like, no, you don't need a G Fuel or a Red Bull. Like, you literally just need the crowd to energize you, and it keeps your blood flowing.
Yeah, there's
But
definitely
those
something
matches
special
are
about
always
that.
fun. Yeah, for sure.
That's man, I don't know, like we've definitely had our fair share, like the times that we've been to Mexico and Gears and played against some of the top Mexican talent. Those were matches where the crowd is definitely on the other side, right? But
Yeah,
even then, that's that's a Gears crowd of 1,000, but a Call of Duty event where you've got Optic sitting across from you or Optic Nation sitting across from you, I think that's a whole different beast. I don't think there's going to be anything like that in
ever
esports.
again.
Yeah.
Maybe. Well, I'm always getting my feelings because of because of franchising, but yeah, I think the Optic fan base is just it's just one of a kind. Them and FaZe have had the chance to, they started early. They accrued this massive, passionate, loyal fan base, and whoever's going up against them, has to be ready to take some of the heat on from their fans. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's like I said, I was never on the receiving end. I never want to be on the receiving end. Well, let's talk a little bit about, because in those 17 or the 14 orgs, 17 different teams, there was one that I noticed that stood out to me because it overlapped with one that I kind of got. It was my first org, and that was VVV Gaming, which I don't think a lot of people remember. Vision, Valor, Victory, who are still around.
They are
not the same people, I don't believe, but they're still around and alive and kicking. So for me, when I joined VVV, there was a tryout process. You had to apply on the forums. That was the first thing. And then after you applied, you had to be active on the forums for 3 months. That was to prove that you really wanted it, I guess. And then after that, for what I was going for, which was Gears of War, you had to do an interview with VVV Lord Jareth, who was like the leader and founder.
Yep, I met him.
Yep. And then you had to do a series of like 1v1 tests versus their current Gears of War pros in order to prove that you actually had skill at the game that you were applying for. And then after all of that
process.
Yeah. And for 13 to 15-year-old me, however old I was at the time, this was like the most legitimate thing for gaming that I had ever been a part of. So I was like super excited and dedicated and on the forums every single day. And there's always going to be a special place in my heart for that kind of community aspect. But
definitely,
I think for you and COD, I don't think the experience was the same, because you came in as just like, hey, look,
they just picked us up.
Yeah, I'm top shit in COD, come sign me kind of thing, right?
Yeah, it was. I believe the event, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say it was Anaheim. It was myself, Wolf, Sid Rock, which probably everyone that's listening to this, Sid Rock is like a COD 4 legend, and I had he was on the original NV team with Foreplay, Stainville, like just legends of the COD community back in the day.
Wow.
And I had the opportunity to play with him kind of towards the tail end of his career. And he clutched up, multiple times when we needed him to. He's just kind of like the anchor of the team, just super calm, cool, and collected, and had this really fun personality. So he always resonates with me, and I always think of him when I think back of VVV. We actually played Ninja's team when he transitioned from Halo to COD. We played them in open bracket, and it went to it's a best of 3. So we lost one of the respawns, and it went to game 3 S&D, and Sid was one of the ones that clutched up in a really big round, and we could have lost to Ninja. I mean, the guy's absolutely who cares if he won or lost? Like the guy's rolling in the dough. He's living his best life, and he absolutely deserves it. But that was one of the memories that always sticks with me.
That's so crazy. I had no idea that Ninja competed in COD at some point. So you actually had I guess the historical legend, and then unbeknownst to anyone at the time, but the future legend in one open bracket match.
Yep. Literally. That's when Formal first switched.
Okay.
I think there was lines of Halo pros that were just switching at the time, because I think Halo had like a massive break or something, and going off subject, watching Formal, the guy literally played 2 events and then just landed on one of the best teams of all time and took full advantage of it. Seeing the way he worked his way up was absolutely astonishing. I love the Halo guys. That's what I grew up on. That's why I'm here. I watching Final Boss, the Ogre Twins, Walshy, watching them on USA TV, and watching movies and game battles and MLG at night. Like, that was my go-to for a really long time. That kind of got me sucked into wanting to go pro in Call of Duty.
I remember probably 2010, 2011, after Gears wasn't on the pro circuit anymore, but I would sit there and I'd have my laptop, my very first old Gateway laptop, on my bed with the MLG.TV open, and trying to the streams were in 360p, really low quality, and just watching the Halo matches, and doing something in my room, telling my mom I was cleaning my room or something, but I'm just sitting there glued to this little screen on my laptop watching these matches. It's just something about that magic. I don't know if it's the nostalgia, but something about
it has to be.
Yeah,
I miss those days deeply. I really do. It was like a one-of-a-kind era in esports, and I think because there wasn't too much money in it, it was just pure passion. And I'm not saying that passion has gone away for our current community, but definitely greed and money and other objectives have come along the way with all the fame and attributes that come with how successful you can be as a pro gamer. And I feel like back then it was just all pride and passion and all or nothing. You're literally playing for a trophy and that's it.
Yeah, I remember just being so envious of the Halo pros when I'd go into an MLG event, and there goes Fear itself walking around with 2 Dr. Pepper girls under his arms, and Walshy enters the building and exactly where he is, because there's a mob of people around him at all times.
They had the banners up. They had Walshy banners and Ogre banners.
Yeah.
These banners were massive, stadium-sized banners. Funny story with Fear itself. I was playing a Halo pub, and we're playing oddball, and I took it on the pit up in our building, which is a glitch. You're not supposed to do that. This is my first time ever interacting with a pro, and he did the trick to get up in our building on the pit. He team killed me, and he said, "Never do this again." And literally, as someone who knew about him, I was just trying to win the match, and I'm 13, 12 or something at the time. He's like, "Never do this again," and I'm like, "Okay, I will never do this again."
I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, good guy at Fear itself. Yeah, I like those events, man. Something about the communities being crazy passionate. I don't know if you follow StarCraft. Do you follow StarCraft?
I watched it. I day 9 visited Full Sail a few times, and I tried learning a bit about it, but I unfortunately never got behind the hype or any of that. But I know it was some of the true like glory days of esports with some of the matches that happened with MLG.
Yeah, I was so I was at MLG DC in 2010 for Halo Reach because Gears wasn't a thing, and I actually went with a former like semi-pro Gears team called I can't remember the name now. But anyways, I went with them, and that was the event. Like Nick Merckx and the Insanes were there trying to compete in Halo as well, so they had a ton of attention. And there was a couple other Gears teams there, and you know we lost kind of early, but StarCraft was there, and it was one of the first times StarCraft was at an MLG event, and so I was sitting in the crowd watching StarCraft, and I believe this is the time where there was a play, and I'm gonna get I think it was Huck versus somebody, and he built a mothership, which like at the time in StarCraft wasn't a thing. It was like it's like a really big waste of your money. You don't build it. It's just such a massive cheese and waste. And the crowd all saw that and erupted, right? And he typed in the game chat to his opponent, don't worry about the crowd, that's for Halo. And then he shows up to the fight with this mothership hilarious. And wins the fight. It was just so like everyone lost it. Something, man, there's so many good memories when it comes to MLG stuff. You know, shout out to them for all the stuff that they did. So you transitioned from playing into, did you coach after playing?
Yeah, so I competed with eUnited for my last event. It was myself, Pac-Man, Ivy, and Wheats, I believe. And then we placed top 24 at MLG Orlando, and that was my second back-to-back top 24 placing. So in my head, I just knew that my time was somewhat coming up, and I wasn't able to kind of put myself in the right position to excel as I did the year before. And I was in my mid-20s, so I kind of felt the need to take a step back and kind of start management. And fortunately, Dan Clerkey was my manager at the time, and I was able to transition from a player to a coach. And you know, I'm super grateful for that opportunity because I mean, you know, esports is rough. Like, it's a very cutthroat industry. It's very hard to find opportunities at times, even with a pro player experience and a degree. I could have easily landed a internet marketing consulting gig, which I did for 6 months, but instead I had the shot of coaching eUnited COD, and that allowed me to make decisions that where we required gunless Arcides and Pristini, and that changed eUnited, you know, our whole trajectory as an organization. Those 3 players were just instant game changers. We went on to win multiple 2Ks. We were called Online Warriors, and then we showed up to the first event for MLG Atlanta and Infinite Warfare, and these 3, not necessarily unknown, but these 3 amateurs basically just came out of the woodworks and put on a show, winning every series back to back to back to back with our veteran Silly at the time. And you know, they stringed together a championship win. And those 4 or 5 months from going as a player to a coach to winning, that it was one of the most proudest moments of my career, because it felt like I finally was able to check that mark off as a player, like trying to win a championship.
Yeah,
I got to live my dream through these 3 kids and Silly, and that weekend I'll never forget. Being in the crowd, it's just like that optic energy we were talking about, where you know, people, it was probably 90% Optic fans, 10% eUnited fans. That's when we weren't really as big or notable. And I felt I was just like in the sea of green. Like, I'm just sitting there like this, like, hey, let's go eUnited. Like,
you're like kind of afraid to cheer.
Yeah, exactly. And it was just a historic weekend. Yeah, I could talk about it for days. I really could.
So when you guys had that event, you're coaching the team, and you have a very different experience coaching than from me, because you have to talk to them between maps or between series, right? You're not allowed in comms That's always been a
We
thing with
weren't
coaches.
allowed in comps at the time. So when I was coaching them, I was a very relaxed coach. I took notes on a lot of the teams that we were playing, and I was basically giving them strategic feedback that, like, Joe, he's one of the players. I just remember a note I had where he always loves the flank, like this one spot. If he's hitting this, they're 100% doing the strat.
Yeah.
And those were the tendencies that I try to pick up on for the guys. There was a solid 6-month period where I considered myself more of a strategic analyst that tried to guide conversations. I really left the playing up to them, because when that team was put together, they were gelling without any coach. I mean, it's funny when you just land on a team like that where all the players know what they're doing. There's that symbiotic synergy. There's no like hesitation. Everything's just extremely fluid.
Yeah.
As a coach or a manager, really, your goal is to keep that together, and you're trying to keep that consistency alive. And you never want to come in and try to throw ideas, or you don't want to break that wheel if it's working. So my goal was just to give them alerts, let them know, like, this is your highest probability if you go here or here. And it ended up working out. To be honest, I didn't even really know the guys that well. Arcides and Pristini were very foreign friends for me, because they joined, and I was working with Dan at the League of Legends home, helping manage our NACS team. So there was times where I'm helping kind of day by day, and then I'm out driving the League of Legends players to get haircuts and have team dinners and stuff like that. So yeah, it was a fun experience.
Wait, so eUnited was in the NACS?
We were in the NACS for, I believe, 3 splits. We had 2 team houses and Rancho Cucamonga. Some of our players were Licorice, Zazel, Deathly, JBM. We had Dandy, won a world championship Dandy on our lineup.
I remember that. Okay.
We had Fox, Gilius, and Hermit as our coach. So I had a blast with those guys. Plenty of fun stories. Hermit was a one-of-a-kind guy too. I don't know what he's up to, but yeah, we were very well settled in Overwatch and League of Legends before it franchised, and similar with Call of Duty. Obviously, winning back-to-back titles, and won Worlds in 2019, and we won Season 0 of Overwatch as well for contenders before it was even really that big of a thing. We won the first season in Europe. We had like Hayes, Boombox. Oh gosh, I can't remember the Morty. A bunch of guys that are actually coaching in the OWL right now were on our team too.
Really? I off the top of my head, I did not remember the United CS team, NACS team, but now that you were, as soon as you said Dandy, I remembered, because I remember Dan being super excited about bringing Dandy on board, and
he was so excited.
Everything about that.
It's probably one of his proudest signings when eUnited first got going, because signing any world champion and being able to bring an established player like Dandy from Korea to the United States and building that relationship with him, I know that was really special for Dan.
So give me your favorite story of you said there was tons of fun stories from that League of Legends stuff. Give me your favorite, or one of your favorite.
Oh gosh, if there's probably plenty. I'm trying to think if I guess I'll just throw out the one that maybe is like the gray area where I should or shouldn't talk about it, but hopefully that person doesn't watch this, because it's literally that funny. So we had an assistant coach called Chris.
Okay. And
he's a very relaxed dude. He could fall asleep anywhere. I wasn't very acquainted with him because I just wasn't that familiar with League of Legends or some of Dan's hires, just because I'm from the console community. Anyway, he finds a scratch on his monitor, and he took his monitor outside in the backyard, and he started beating it with a bat. And I know this story's like taking a 180 turn, and I'm a person that I laugh at anything, and it's a big problem that I have. Laughing's just a way where like I can like get out of a situation. I don't know what it is, but I laugh at things that I shouldn't because I just have a weird sense of humor. I'm like, what the hell is this guy doing? Like he's beating his monitor with a bat. And I'm the acting manager in the house. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Like, is this like a joke? Is this a troll? And I'm like, oh crap! Like this is like getting a little out of hand. That's like one of the funniest like stories that I mean this happened 5 years ago or so.
Did he explain
And
why? Like it's
uh
literally just because of one scratch?
yeah, I don't know. I think he let his anger get to him. I have no idea. He just found a scratch on his monitor and literally started taking a bat to it, and that's literally one of the funny stories that I remember from that house. Yeah.
I've
We can
seen
talk about esports stories, all the time.
oh
It's
yeah.
so funny.
I mean, I've seen players do crazy things, but I don't think I've ever known a coach to go find a scratch on their monitor, take it outside, and beat it literally to death
Yeah.
with a bat.
Yeah. Yep. It was a one of a kind experience. That's for sure.
Good times over at the eUnited League of Legends house.
Yep. Exactly.
So you guys were in League of Legends for a little while. And then at what point did you guys have the idea to do the eUnited Cadets? Because I remember one, it led to you guys having Simp and Abizi, right? Because they came from Cadets.
Abizi was acquired from E6.
Okay.
The original cadet roster was Celium, Simp, Turn Up 2 Easy, who's currently on our Valorant team.
Okay.
And Illy. So
okay.
Those guys have all, I mean, they're absolutely, killing it right now.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny because when I look at Atlanta FaZe, it's Abizi, Arcity, Simp, and Celium. I'm just like that's my team right there. Like those are my guys. They're on FaZe now. But yeah, I think the idea really came from we wanted to put a system in place where one, I wanted my guys to get really good search and destroy practice, and it was a game type that we were lacking in World War II. I felt Simp and these younger kids, I've been playing against them for years. I mean, Simp has been shitting on people before he was a pro at eUnited. I mean, the guy's been winning NJ lands. He has been playing wagers and tournaments till 4 a.m. with Celium and all of these guys. And I can remember instinctively, like, my host in Call of Duty was extremely overpowered, and I'll admit it. I just had a very special host in St. Louis, and it allowed me to do things that I shouldn't be able to do online. Simp and Celium, they had no problem playing on my host. I felt I had so much confidence playing on my host online, and these guys were shooting back. They were just heavy hitters. I'm like, God, like who are these kids? Like they're so annoying to play against. They're so freaking good. And as a manager, I had that kind of in my back pocket. I'm sure other managers and coaches knew how good these are, but eUnited allowed me to take that first step to contract 4 kids with their parents' approval under 18. And we built a cadet system where we had our official practice squad for search and destroy. The first few months were extremely productive because we were learning how they played and we were learning tendencies. But over time, the program was somewhat devalued from a practice standpoint because it's the same team over and over again, and they're doing the exact same routes, exact same snipes, and you need some, diversity when it comes to search and destroy. You need different timings, different nades. You need to be able to play people that think differently. And even though we were getting really good practice, it just became a little too repetitive. We retained them as streamers, and we still played and practiced against them occasionally. And when COD expanded to 5v5, we acquired Cap from LG, I believe. And that was an all-star lineup. We had Pristini, Arcides, Clayster, J-Cap, and Abizi, if I didn't. Yeah, that's correct. And it was I mean, that roster was great. We placed second at the first LAN. We had some internal drama on our team, which unfortunately I can't get into. I'm
no
sure
worries.
it's out there on the internet.
We all remember the arguments.
Yeah, from 2 years ago. It's pretty funny because like I remember Arcides tweeted out a GIF or he tweeted out an image of me controlling everybody like puppets. And that's the one image it's stained in my mind from when we were at our like rock bottom of a team. Like there was a lot of arguments. We were trying to keep the team together. People wanted other people off the team. It was not a fun time, and it happens to a lot of teams. I mean, two people conflict and all hell breaks loose. And I made the executive decision, which was I can't sit here today and say that it was not like a gamble, but I think my career was not. I think I would have been safe, but I had to make the choice to drop JCap, and JCap is JCap. He is the man. He is a winning player. He knows what it takes. Like, I have so many good things to say about the guy, and he's one of the most respected humans in Call of Duty. The guy's a class act. But unfortunately, with how our team, we had Clay, we had Cap, we had a lot of big personalities on the team, and I had to figure out a way to kind of divide that and put someone that was young, fresh, and kind of reignite the team. And we dropped Simp on the team. We implemented Simp on the team and just kind of plucked him in there. And I mean, it was smooth sailing from there.
Was it difficult? Was it difficult to convince, players like Arcides and Pristini and Clay, who are at this point, well, I mean, Clay's definitely a seasoned veteran, and Arcides and Pristini themselves have kind of earned that title as seasoned, and you go, hey, look, like Simp makes sense, even though he might not be as experienced.
So Clay was the biggest proponent of wanting to get Simp on board. He definitely had my back in that decision. The Twins love Simp, but I think they were a little bit on the fence, which, as you should be. I mean, you whenever you take a player and put them on a pro team, regardless of who they are, you just don't know if personalities are going to clash, if it's going to work out. So they were definitely on the fence, but after we kind of pushed Simp on the team and they started scrimming, everything was, I think the guys got along very well. Abizi and Simp became extremely close, and that showed with them moving on to phase now. So everything just kind of worked after Simp joined our team. And also, Chris, I've said this in a lot of other interviews, he is one of the most professional 18-year-olds that I ever worked with. He was always open to criticism, never complained too often, always did his media obligations and tried to go above and beyond as it pertained to organization stuff. I couldn't have asked for like a better player at the time. It was like I had nothing to complain about. The guy was hitting snipes back to back and running and gunning with a submachine gun and doing everything he needed for the org. It was like a perfect case scenario at the time.
Yeah, Simp reminded me a lot of like early Mental, where I mean Mental was obviously very much a troll, but young, insanely talented, and he just wanted to compete, right? Like the outside stuff didn't bother him. It was all about just being in there in that game, doing the absolute best that he could, and if he won, great, and if he lost, oh well, he'll do better next time. But like that Mental got that reputation of like not having emotions because his face was always like not robot. Quite a frown, but not scary. Quite Simp kind of reminded me of that. Like when you guys brought him onto the main team and I was watching like that roster compete, it just seemed like Simp was your new cold-blooded killer in game.
Yeah, he was a force. I mean, he was playing at another level, and he had so many versatile plays, being able to snipe, being able to sub, being able to pick up an AR mid-round and still do work with it. He was just all over the map, and I think he allowed the other guys to kind of reach their height as a team too, because he made it really easy. He was opening up plays, getting big first bloods with Tyler, Abizi.
Mm-hmm.
Their speed with Preston. I mean, you have Clay and Alec, which are more reserved AR players. And Clay can play really fast when he wants to. But I personally think he's at his best when he's positioned well and he's just stopping subs from doing what they want. So you have these three fast gunners just slinging around and doing whatever they want with Alec and Clay looking over them. And it was just a perfect storm.
Yeah, that led to why you guys looked so good and won a Worlds, right? Or a champs, I guess, in COD. But
first it was playoffs, and then we went through winners at champs. Playoffs was the big one. That was a very emotional day for Clay. That was a 1,000-day drought, and since he won his last major event, so that was a huge day for him. That was Chris's first major. That was the Twins sticking it out with eUnited since Infinite Warfare, MLG Atlanta, almost like a year and a half of them winning and placing second, maybe once or twice. Like, they stuck through the process, and it took an extremely long time. You know, we lost Gunless early on. He went on to win like 4 or 5 events with LG and whoever else. So I'm sure that was always like building on the back of their heads, like, wow, Gunless got off of our team and he's killing it. And then we picked up Clay, and we went through this stage where we were very consistent, but we couldn't put the right pieces together to win. And then finally everything clicked, and I think those last 2 events were obviously extremely special for all of us.
So you put the playoffs above the champs win?
I do, for the sake of like the story of the team. That was, winning champs is one of the most historic things you can do, and it's not taking anything away from playoffs. But when we won playoffs, that just we wouldn't have won champs, I don't think, if we didn't win playoffs. Maybe that's the way to put it. Like, that just, it opened up the doors. It gave them the mindset that they are capable of winning. It took a lot of stress and anxiety off of the players' shoulders, and I think that allowed them to excel at champs.
So it kind of like opened that like confidence back up for them. Like, they knew, okay, like, drought's done. The tough times is like, we're here and we actually are the best, and let's go prove it again at champs. And then you did convincingly. That's awesome. I didn't think, I always would think that the champs win would be more because it's, the bigger tournament, so to speak. But both
for the players, it probably is.
Okay.
For me, it's playoffs, because I at least felt like I fulfilled my word by preaching to stick together and doing a lot of things that I wanted to do with the team. Like, seeing the vision I had in my head through was really big for me. For the players, they're going to say champs every single time.
Yeah. You can't beat that ring.
No, that's for sure. Clay's having fun with 2 of them now, and who knows if he'll win a third. That guy's a machine.
Was he, how many? No, because he should have. Oh, you mean at the time he had 2? Yeah. That's,
he recently just won one.
Yeah, with the good old Empire. So you've got, you go through that whole thing, and then after that, franchising happens, right?
Yes.
So now you guys aren't really involved in Call of Duty. Is that weird for you? I mean, your whole 99% of your career is revolved around COD. Is it weird not being directly involved?
It's extremely weird. I mean, fully candid, it's COD runs through my blood. I've been in this for a long time. I'm still really close with all the players. I still play Coaches 8s with Cap and Nameless and some of the older guys, and it's so much fun to me. But it's also opened my eyes, and it's given me a chance to learn other games and try to replicate that success. We have a Valorant team right now. We have Rocket League. We just got back into Gears of War, which has been exciting. And being able to spread my wings and learn, new players, new personalities, help younger kids try to succeed in life and in gaming. That's really where my passion's at. And though I'm not able to do that in COD at the moment, which it sucks, like point blank, it sucks. I can't wait for the day where eUnited gets the opportunity to get back in COD, or I'm working back in COD again. If that ever happens, who knows? But right now, I am having a lot of fun working with other players.
Makes sense. I mean, esports, you're one of those people who is truly passionate about esports as a whole. And I think that's something that, for me, I've always really appreciated and respected from you and your management style, is that just, I can tell that you love and care about the players and you love esports as a whole. So it makes me feel good. Like, for example, you were saying you got back into Gears, and those are my babies. And, my tweet was 100% genuine, seeing my babies go into an org where I know they're going to be managed and taken care of by someone who's as passionate as I am, that it's like eases, it calms me down a little bit. I'm not worried about them. I know they're going to be in good hands. And so I definitely want to say, for the record on the podcast, I respect the absolute hell out of everything that you do and the career that you've had so far. I take a lot of inspiration from your work. So it's been fun to watch.
Yeah, it means a lot. I really appreciate that, for real.
Well, it's my pleasure. That's why I'm so excited to have you on this. So before we switch off of COD, is there something that could happen for challengers that would make it more appealing for a brand like United, who has a history in Call of Duty?
That's been a big topic for us. And I guess I'll say what I can,
Sure.
But I think challengers is really interesting. I think there's somewhat of lack of stability with the rosters. They're always changing.
Definitely.
There is, I remember when it was on LAN, there was no stream presence for teams unless you made it to the final event. That was a big drawback. And I guess more or less, maybe it's pride, but winning back to back and then potentially having to pick up a team that might not win challengers could potentially throw away the legacy that these amazing players built.
Yeah.
And that, I think that has a lot to do with it too. eUnited definitely misses COD. We still tweet about it. We still reminisce with the events and the championships that we won. We definitely, I consider us to try to have, I mean, it's in our playbook to try to get back in, some way, somehow. But I think we're just waiting for the right time.
Makes complete sense. I mean, I get that question a lot if I'm ever going to coach again in Gears. And, the success that I had with the team that I had, there's no way I could ever see myself coaching in Gears that's not that team. And so, like, there's, you could build the all-star roster of all-star rosters, but if it's not those players, it's just those shoes, like, on not only on a championship level, but on a like relationship level. Like, those are my little brothers at this point, right? And I'm sure you feel similarly about your past COD players. It's just, it's hard to fill those shoes, and, like, I don't want to say like it's going to tarnish the legacy, but it's just it's almost a different thing, but you have to brand it as the same thing. You know what I mean? Like, you'd have to brand it as UIU COD, or I'd have to brand it as the Gears team that I'm coaching, but it's not the same. It's just not, even if you get amazing players, it's just not the same. So I completely get it. I had to ask because we're UIU, so we have a Challengers COD team, and I've seen a lot of orgs.
You guys have moved a lot of players around. Like, you guys are, I feel like not saying like a farm system is a bad analogy at all, but I feel like you guys have helped breed a lot of COD players to bigger opportunities over the past 2 years, which has been awesome to see too.
Yeah, that's something that we've really been trying to do with this, especially with this current Challengers. I think we're the only org to send players up to the actual CDL teams, which has been really cool.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So let's talk about Gears then, because you got involved. You recently signed up. What, the announcement was 2 weeks ago, I think?
2 weeks ago, and it was a banger.
Yeah, the whole retro video game style announcement was actually really sick. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. What made you decide to get back in Gears?
There was multiple things. One, the game has changed 5v5 to 4v4. I think it's overall a much healthier change, not only for Gears, but for COD as well. And I think as we've seen this season, it's kind of opened up the doors with so much competition. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like there's no like one favorite. There's six, and there's teams that can compete at a really high level, and that makes the scene really fun to watch. I've actually had supporters state that, since we've gone back in, they're not only watching our matches, but they're glued to watching all the other matches because they really like the pace of Gears of War. They just like how energetic it is, and the format changes that Microsoft, the Coalition, and UMG have made. Listening to the players has been a huge plus. eUnited, started off as a console mostly organization with Gears and COD, and we obviously had League and Overwatch, but COD and Gears had fairly successful runs, and I think it just kind of it feels right to be back, and we're really excited to give these guys the chance to play again, because I think I told you this, and I told a few other people, there's all this team just like you. I mean, me and you have the exact same mindset. Like, I did not want to get back into Gears unless it was this team.
Yeah.
And regardless if they win or they lose, I know the type of people that they are. I feel like they're really professional humans. They really care. They're experienced. They're veterans. There's probably 20 other names I can give them, but I feel like they just have it together. And we definitely were interested in a team that's been there, done that. Regardless of if the road might look a little rough now to get back to that point, or if not, and things are smooth sailing, we just wanted to have that consistency and know what we're getting out of a team.
Makes complete sense. Yeah, I think the Gears esports program is taking tremendous strides in the right direction. So I'm excited to see how it goes. They're doing a good job surviving this weird esports ecosystem that we're in now because of COVID. Yep. The transfer to online, I mean, there's been learning curves for everybody, but it's still working, and they're doing a good job of making it work. And yeah, I mean, I was really excited to see when Kenny texted me and he was like, yeah, like we're talking to eUnited. And I was like, yeah, that's really good. Like, definitely keep going. And he was like, yeah, like, we've got, this and this, but, eUnited, like, we're waiting for them. They're reviewing stuff. We've had a call with them, or I've had a call with Burns, or I've been talking with them. And like, I hope they're interested. And I'm like, yeah, me too. Like, I hope they're interested too, man. That's huge. Yep. Like, so
Kenny was my go-to contact the entire time. It just like you said, he's kind of like the captain outside. I was talking to him left and right, and he was definitely the voice and the brain of the team during all of these conversations. So shout out to Kenny for putting in all the dirty work to help us get this locked up.
No, Kenny's great. He is almost overly so the ideal player when it comes to communication. Like, one of the reasons why I got so close to Kenny, one was because early on when he joined the Optic roster that we had, there was a point where I wasn't doing as much as I should have as a coach, and he was the first and only person to call me out on that. And he said, look, like, I don't think you're doing enough, and there's like, I'm considering replacing you. And I was like, okay, what would you say? Like, give me some feedback. Cause like, I want to grow and learn too. And I want to like earn your respect. And he was like, okay, well, here's the things that I think you could be doing and should be doing. And he gave me like a list, and I said, okay, deal, I'll do it. And from that point on, I think I earned his respect because I actually went and started doing those things and incorporating them into my style. So he knew that I was serious about helping them win. And then on top of that, we started seeing the success that was that dynasty. And so he and I just got really close over that time and have become really good friends. And so it would turn into, like, I'm going out for a walk in the morning, and my routine is call Kenny, and we're going to talk about the game or the team or the practice that week or whatever for the next hour, or just, random stuff Gears related, because he cares and he communicates well. So, not a lot of players in esports do a good job of that communication, especially with management, when they look at you as like, oh, that's my boss, or, oh, he's going to ask me to make a social media post, or
yeah, hey, retweet this, please.
Yeah, I need you to retweet this. And, but no, Kenny Kenny was always like great about communicating, and I think that team's lucky to have him, and I think you guys are lucky to have him too.
Yeah.
And he's lucky to. I think it's a mutual thing. He's lucky to have you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think that just goes to show like the two people that you are too. I mean, for him, it's great to have someone that's so vocal and will be transparent if something's wrong. And I think Kenny has a history of being vocal and caring, and that just comes from the passion. And just like yourself, if you took that criticism the wrong way and put your ego in front of that, that dynasty could have potentially ended up being disrupted, or
Yeah.
something could have happened. So it really does go both ways. And I've enjoyed being with the guys. I've tried to join their Discord server after they're done playing, and just listening to them talk about other teams and the league and the game itself. Like, they're putting in so much extra time to try to perfect their craft, and they don't just get out of Discord right when the match is over. They're still talking, and I feel like Kenny's driving a lot of those conversations, and it's really refreshing to hear, to be honest.
Yeah, I've noticed too that even after the very first Pro League match where they lost to Hive, which Hive is arguably the number. I mean, they're undefeated right now in the Pro League.
They're looking really good.
Yeah, so and shout out to TJ, he was a pleasure to work with. So they lost that match, and then immediately they're tweeting for a scrim. Like, it's not, oh, we lost, we're going to be annoyed and go pout or whatever. Yeah. They're like, no, screw that. We want to get better. That's bullshit. We shouldn't have lost that. Let's go fix whatever went wrong. And, and since then they haven't lost. Right. So it's,
yep.
It's
and you're definitely the team to beat right now.
And I'm the number one fan, and I haven't gotten my hoodie yet from Burns, so it's all good. I'll just keep chanting eUnited in my watch party streams.
The restock is coming soon,
so I can send you my size and my address, and I can expect.
Yeah, actually, I do. I got you.
Okay. Yep. But yeah, man, it's been awesome to see eUnited get back involved with a game that I've been passionate about for a long time. And I know you guys, I mean, you loved it. I remember talking to you when you first started coming to Gears events, and you loved the energy. It reminded you of old COD before everything got too...
Yeah, I coached Gears for, I think it was a year or 8 months or something like that. It was fun. I had a blast coaching Gears.
Yeah, you were standing across the stage for me in London.
I did, yep. And we thought we won the series after winners finals, and then we got bamboozled the next two. But I mean, I think with COD, my experience really helped the guys, because that was when it was first switching from extermination to escalation, and respawns just became a thing. And I was trying, at least my hardest, to kind of relay that, we can take some more calculated risk. We can do this and that. And they were teaching me simultaneously. I had Crit Kyle teaching me, like, yo, this is what we do. Like, This is how the game works. I don't have that great of a memory either. So in terms of timings for weapons, I did an okay job. Usually our players were just so on top of it, but for like booms and snipers, I would for the macro weapons, the big boy ones, I would always have it timed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had so much fun. I'll never forget God Plays at Mexico City. We were playing them, and he stood up after they won like 2 rounds in a row. And he just out of nowhere, he goes, "Burns, you sucked at Call of Duty." Just like straight up out of nowhere. Like, I'm coaching the Gears guys, and hearing that Gears, like, it brought out like the beast in me. Like, I took off my headset, and I'm like, wait, like, what did you say? Like, I was like, I've made more money in my entire career than all 5 of you right here. And my players started laughing. And I think Gears, it just brings out that fun, intense side of esports, and you don't get it anywhere else. And I'm sure in the past it's been probably taken over the top a few times, and things have definitely been rewinded. But I think the players are more mature. They're finding that right balance to be like, hey, we can take a step over the line, but not that next step where we're going to get in trouble. And it's entertainment at the end of the day. Like, it's very entertaining. People love hearing the comms. They like seeing the reactions and the trash talk. It's just a part of Gears.
It's the UFC of esports, right?
Yeah.
It's a little bit more intense and content wise, but the trash talk and the energy and stuff is all there, and it's addicting to watch. Yeah,
Definitely.
it's funny. You're definitely right when you talk about like things going a little bit too far, because you and I have had that interaction of,
Oh yeah, I think so. Yeah, I remember
Vegas.
that one.
We
Yep,
won't
that was
go
a
into
bummer.
that, but that was
No, we don't need to go there.
that was a first for me, and I hope it lasts. I don't think I'll ever have another player get his tooth knocked out in it. I'm so sorry, Icy, for laughing about
I
that,
thought
but
it was a troll. I
it's-
literally thought it was a troll.
well, you hear that, and it's the most ridiculous thing like you could ever hear. Like, yeah, like your player punched my player's tooth out, and it's like, we're gaming.
I know. I
We're
was
playing
like,
video
wait,
games.
is someone like trolling me? Like someone came out to me and was like, hey, like an altercation happened. I'm like, oh, yeah, nice try. It's a funny joke. And they're like, no, it actually happened. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
It's
Time for a big boy conversation.
yeah, that was I feel so bad for, shout out to Jack Felling for having to deal with that at the time too, because that is not at all, she's trying to impress Caesars Entertainment or whatever that group was who owned the hotels and that were helping host the event, and then here she's dealing with on media day a fight goes down. So it's like,
Yep.
not even a fight really, but oh
no,
man,
it wasn't. Just a small little hiccup.
And so to kind of segue into other exciting esports, you talked about you guys are in Rocket League. What was kind of the point where you were like, yeah, that's something, soccer cars, that's something I want to get involved in?
Yeah, you just look at Rocket League, and I probably have said this thousands of times, but the three big staples for Rocket League, it's easy to understand. It's brand safe and it's fun. So one, my grandparents who don't know anything about esports, I can put them on a couch and be like, hey, it's 3 soccer rocket cars playing soccer. Like, that's it. They're like, oh, this is a lot of fun. They score, they defend, whatever. They probably won't get the boost aspect, but they at least see the ball going into the net, and it's very easy to, decipher and see what's happening. Sponsors don't have to worry about, guns, violence, blood. It's extremely brand safe. And the developer Psyonix has been extremely pleasant to work with. Their communication has improved every quarter. From my understanding, sales have been very healthy for a lot of the teams, and they just came out with Fennec skins for the org, so they're trying to figure out ways where we're not only offering one skin, but we have a header and a profile pic and 3 different car options. And I think
wheels,
that's
right?
Yep, wheels as well. So that's allowing organizations to have multiple streams of revenue, which is extremely important in any venture, because I think we're getting past the times where an organization is just going to come in and invest in an esport and hoping that a partnership program is going to work out, or hoping that a prize pool is going to clear the investment that was put in. You really have to have sources of revenue that can come in and justify like why you're getting into it.
Makes sense. So correct me if I'm wrong. You guys were in Counter-Strike at one point, right?
Yes. CS was our first team that eUnited ever signed.
So you're not in Counter-Strike anymore, but you have a Valorant team that's within the last couple months, right?
Yep.
So explain to me the decision to get into Valorant.
Yeah, I think Valorant's an interesting one. I think right now it's just the hottest esport on the market. Salaries have been abruptly going all over the place. It was a reason why we were a tad hesitant, because of how insane some of the salaries were when there's really no guaranteed league. I mean, it was just all up in the air. But I guess getting a little off topic, Valorant, one, Riot, great developer to work with. I think you always want to take any game that Riot puts out very seriously. We found a team, Turn Up being our former Call of Duty cadet. We felt the need to bring him back and hopefully, give these guys and him a chance to show what they're about and try to ride that wave where we're giving them an opportunity to play with the eUnited and take that relationship to the next level. And we've made one roster change, and we're currently looking for a coach. But so far, I've really enjoyed working with the team. They're super professional players, standout guys. Have no complaints so far. We're just needed a little bit more time to put the right plays and system in place.
Makes sense. Yeah, I've I'm a League of Legends fan, and Dan Clerkey knows me from like way back in League of Legends. But I think what you said kind of hits the nail on the head. Anything that Riot puts out, they don't produce less than gold. So, seeing Valorant, kind of, I mean, it's really absorbing a lot of other esports. You see players coming over from CS, you see them coming over from PUBG, you see them coming over from Apex, Overwatch, a lot of Overwatch. But Sinatra was kind of one of the big first ones that's like,
I think most of FaZe players are from Overwatch too. Like, I can't remember some of them, but I know 2 of them at least are from Overwatch.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to see that. And like you said, there's nothing was set in stone yet. And Riot even said like, hey, look, we're kind of hands off for the first year, maybe half a year, and then we'll start kind of doing stuff, but do whatever you want until then. And it's still doing a great job. Nerd Street Gamers has done some awesome stuff, and now I think, and now Riot's getting a little bit more involved, I think, and helping produce some of these things. It's really cool to see Riot show, hey, look, like it can survive without us, and now we're gonna make it better, and take down Counter-Strike is, I guess, their end goal.
I mean, that's literally what it's already happened in my eyes. I mean, I think NA Counter-Strike is near its death. That's what it feels like. Maybe something changes, but it's just, I don't know. All the top orgs have gotten out except EG, and it just doesn't feel like what it used to be.
What do you think has to change for Counter-Strike to combat Valorant? If you what you're allowed to say.
I think in my eyes, it's just that developer relationship. Notwithstanding, there's anything with Riot right now, but I mean, I think CS, it's maybe they got lazy. I don't know. It's
Valve does what Valve wants, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, CS has been around. It's one of the oldest esports of all time, and it's still extremely healthy without NA. It's always going to be a popular esport. I just think the salaries got way too out of control, and a lot of organizations couldn't justify their investment into Counter-Strike because maybe there was no franchise plans, maybe there wasn't sponsorship revenue. COVID came into play and no LANs were happening, and Counter-Strike is a very LAN-focused game, as are all every other esport out there. But there's historic and iconic moments driven from CS LAN events, and I just think COVID and Valorant kind of KO'd it.
That's it's a shame because I've always loved Counter-Strike. I feel like, I mean, we're talking like it's dead. It's not dead by any means, but there's definitely the winds have shifted. There's something new, and I think it's Valorant being what Valorant is and being Riot, Riot being who Riot is. I think we'll definitely see, especially when LAN events can come back. I think that's going to be the true test. Will CS be able to kind of come back up and be like, look, LANs are back, we're still king? Or are Valorant LANs going to be even better? Like, I think that's going to be where we really see, who wins this fight.
I mean, at least right now in NA, Valorant is it's taking over. I mean, almost every organization seems to, be involved and is at least trying to take it, somewhat serious. I'm trying to think, like,
well, even in Europe too, you've got G2, Fnatic. I think that new org that's like invested in by David Beckham, Guild. They have a team. Like there's a lot of European presence too.
I think there's a lot of hype around Valorant, and people are buying into the hype. And 6 to 12 months from now, if it's a similar situation with CS where maybe they don't find their footing, maybe some orgs get out, I think people just don't want to miss out on the potential ride with Valorant. That's kind of what we're seeing.
Makes sense. So I'm gonna do another really bad segue. You guys a couple months ago hopped off a ride.
Hmm.
Um, the whole Rainbow Six thing. I enjoy Rainbow Six esports. I follow it a little bit because I try to follow a little bit of everything. And I remember when Rainbow Six esports was on console. There was actually for when we had the Gears of War UE season finals for season 2. It was at PAX East in Boston, and I think our finals was on Sunday, and the Rainbow Six finals for like Xbox was on Saturday. So we were there because it's the same stage. We were sharing the same stage, and we had to watch like there, so then we could go up and like set up and go
Wow.
behind the stage and stuff. And I remember sitting in the crowd and going like, "What the fuck is happening?
Yeah.
This is the most
It's
boring."
so it's hard to understand. It's hard to follow.
Yeah,
But once you take the time to invest and learn it, it's really a beautiful esport. These guys are so organized. The amount of time that they take to prep for their matches is by far more investment than any other esport I've been a part of. And I
really.
can say that, yes. I mean, my guys were prepping an hour and a half before scrim sometimes. They were talking about stuff an hour after matches. The coach and the analyst play a major role in team conversations where other communities, the players might drive more of the conversation.
Hmm.
I really respect all of the players in that game. I mean, it is a I'm hoping over time it becomes a game that's easier to understand and is more accepted because I don't think it's reached its full potential yet. But unfortunately, there's been a decent amount of organizations that have left, and
Yeah.
including eUnited, and I without getting into the full picture, I think one, it kind of comes down to communication from the developer. With us specifically, we unfortunately landed in a position where we didn't make the major, but we didn't get relegated. So
Okay.
obviously, not getting relegated is the best thing ever.
Yeah.
But we had to wait 5.5 to 6 months until the next match, and
Which is crazy.
it's insane. So that scenario didn't really come into our heads because if our team was playing really well, there was a chance that if we won these next 2 games, we could be at the major and life's great. But unfortunately, we lost, and then we won this big map, and then we were just kind of sitting on our feet for 6 months. And I think the idea of being in a game where you're not playing for 6 months or so, that really kind of hurt our process, and we really had to evaluate what we were doing in Rainbow Six, and it unfortunately led us to kind of pull out. And then simultaneously, we didn't realize that it was going to put our players in a very awkward position. And the rest just kind of unfolded how it did.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's something that people don't take into consideration is, orgs don't have, even if you have investors, the biggest capital investors in the world, if you're some of these major brands, you still can't justify sitting for half a year.
Yeah,
Especially, a Rainbow Six roster is 5 players, 1 coach,
it's
maybe
expensive.
2, couple
It is.
analysts.
It's expensive.
And
It's very expensive.
like, I don't know exactly what salaries are, but I know they're not cheap. They're not CS, but they're not cheap.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you justify that to somebody who's very business savvy? Even if you love the team, how do you justify that to like, yeah, we're going to spend 6 months worth of 7 salaries. We're not going to get anything out of it. There's no competitions, but we might be able to make some content. And it's like, it doesn't.
And I think, everyone and their mother and father are bringing out COVID, but COVID also doesn't help the situation
Yeah.
because it prevented us from pitching to sponsors.
Yeah.
And sponsors play a heavy role in any team venture. They can shoulder some of the cost. They find they resonate with a couple of the players, and they want to be a part of that mission. And unfortunately, due to COVID, a 6-month break, lack of communication, there's just too many cons and less, pros, where we unfortunately made that decision. And it was extremely tough because we invested a lot of, staff to Vegas. I flew out there for a week, and, I think the toughest part about being a GM or a manager and even a coach in esports is building connections with players and then having to let them go.
Yeah.
That's one of the toughest parts of my job. I'm a very, I don't know, I'm definitely introverted. I keep to myself a lot.
Same.
I'm social when I'm with my core friends, and I can be very outgoing. But when I'm in a space where I'm not, it takes a lot of effort for me to sometimes make that first introduction. And I guess I really enjoyed working with my guys. It was a lot of fun, and these guys were reading books with each other. I've not had a team that has read books with one another to gather, important parts of a chapter and try to apply it to their game. How awesome is that? That's next level dedication right there. And I was so impressed hearing that. I'm sure, let's send freaking books out, and if that's gonna be something that's a additional team activity outside of playing, hell yeah.
Yeah. The United Book Club.
United Book Club. And yeah, it's an unfortunate situation. I mean, I've been in spots too. I think the 2 times, I'll say it's personal, but I think I've cried 2 times being dropped from teams. Legit. You're putting blood, sweat, tears, and you're sacrificing friendships, family, events, and you're in your room gaming for 8 to 10 hours a day, year round, and you get dropped. Or I mean, it is the worst feeling on the planet. So
yeah.
And I'm not trying to compare my situation to theirs, but our industry, unfortunately, I think we're still working on identifying what the business model really looks like. And until there is that clear path to profitability, I think there's tough decisions that have to be made across the board.
Yeah, I think, I mean, to touch on a couple of the things that you mentioned, one, I watched this happen with PUBG too, where there was a really tragic lack of communication between the esports program and the teams involved in the esports program. And it's why even to this day, they're having a major, or last week, it might still be going on. But several of the top teams, they've branded themselves. It's either, there's one that's either it's 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. I don't remember their team name is, but it's 4 Angry Men or 3 Angry Men, whatever their name is, and they're Shoot to Kill, which might be an org now, but it kind of started off.
I think that's a player org.
Yeah, so it's there's a lot of teams that have done that in the past, and I'm afraid of that trend, because it's, with a game like PUBG, I love PUBG, and to see it have to go through that, I love Rainbow Six, and now that I've played it and grown to appreciate the intensity that is Rainbow Six competitive, and the getting shot through thumbnail sized holes in the wall. I really hope that as esports continues to grow and develop, a lot of those things get remedied. On the org side, we're all looking for that profitability model. But I think on the competitive side, as either the developer or whoever's hosting the leagues and tournaments, they need to really work on finding that clear cut planning, and then the way to communicate that. Something I was really impressed with Halo, which it hasn't happened yet, but I think it was half a year ago or a year ago when 343 was like, hey, we've partnered with Esports Engine, and we have the year roadmap for the esports program, or at least that's our goal. Is when we announce the first event, you're also going to know when the event is a year from that event.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
that's massive.
Yeah, that's huge. And I think that's something that Riot does really well. They've kind of, paved that way. I think CSGO at a top level does that, or at least in the past did. But I think that's something that needs to be more common, is that roadmap, because for us as general managers and on the org side, that helps us plan out our strategy, and it would help hey, there's the chance of this 6-month downtime, or there isn't, because they've thought about that, and the developers are like, yeah, let's throw some open events or something in those 6 months, so our premier orgs aren't sitting there with their, I'm not going to make that reference, thumbs up the up, but you know what I mean? Like, I think that's really crucial. I think as esports continues to grow, that's something that in the next year or two, I hope to see really develop and change, is that, as we work on our side, they're also continuing to push the envelope on theirs.
Yeah, it gives players the foresight to like mentally prepare on, even school, like balancing their school and when they need to take days off, and telling their team or their parents like what they can expect. It's just a massive win overall. And I think any developer that can step up and communicate at least honestly and be fully transparent with plans. And sometimes it's tough because everyone has somebody to report to, and sometimes you never meet the person that's making the call. So sometimes it's out of people's control, and it's unfortunate. But I think communication and transparency always go a long way with any relationship.
And I think the ones where you see the person who's in charge is directly involved, I think there's so many times where the person who's making the decisions is behind closed doors, or doesn't understand what the players and the coaches and the managers and like the people who are touching the product every day, what they're going through. You see that it comes across in the program, or it comes across in the activities, the tournaments, whatever, where I remember there was a point where I wanted to work for Riot, and it's still like kind of it was when I was looking to work in video game design, and then kind of transitioned into esports. And I remember talking to some people I knew at Riot, and they were like, yeah, part of our thing is that you have to play a certain amount of League every month, because they want you to know, like, if you're working on this game, you should play the game. So, and I was like, why isn't everyone doing that? Like, that makes so much sense. It shouldn't just be, the Q&A guys and girls who are doing that. It should be, everyone should be touching the product. If I'm creating the esports program around a game, I should play the game a little bit to know.
It's just like managing a team too. Like when we picked up Valorant, when we manage a game, or when we get into a game, I will at least take the time to learn the basics. Where I will play the game, I'll understand the terminology, the maps, and I'll be able to put myself to have intellectual conversations about the game outside of like the micro adjustments and the nitty and gritty type detailed plays where it's out of my realm. I don't have the authority to talk about that, but I'll at least be able to assert myself and talk about, number advantages, rotating, waiting for your teammates, communication, all of that fun stuff. Like I always try to focus on like the outside and, help the teams that way.
That's something I wish I would have done earlier with UIU. I've been here for about a year now, and UIU was definitely at its core an FGC org, and the best. And we have so many amazingly talented players all over the world for the FGC. And I played Smash. I got beat up in Street Fighter in college, but like they were never, I've played Mortal Kombat in the arcade, but I've never really put time into an FGC game. And so the other day I actually decided, I think last week, I bought Tekken 7, which is the most recent Tekken, and I bought Street Fighter 5, and I'm like, I'm going to put some time into these games. I'm going to get my ass kicked, but I'm going to put some time into these games so that I can understand more about what I'm watching when I watch these guys compete. Like, I'm not, a boomer in the terms of like, I can't understand what's happening, but I want to be able to like understand a little bit more what all goes into, you see them do these perfect combos, and it like pro players do such a good job of making their game look easy. And it's partially beautiful and partially infuriating.
It is.
When you go try it yourself and you're like, wait, why don't my fingers work that way? Like, how you do how many buttons at once? Like it's
the sequence that they put in with the button synergies and everything, it's unbelievable,
and it's crazy. And you even see it like it's every title. It's Valorant, the ability they have to flick and aim on heads, and they're like, you just click on the head. Like, I'm trying, but the head is moving.
It's second nature to all these guys, and for everyone else it takes a lot of time and energy to get to that point where it does become second nature.
It's crazy to me, man. But it's just I think that's something that's really important, and it's something that I didn't think of early enough, is just to go get the games and put some time into them. I think that helps you be a better manager and relate to the players. So more respect
definitely.
for you for that. Look, we've been going for about an hour, and I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I really appreciate you having the open schedule to be able to hop onto the podcast, man. It's been an honor having you. Is there anything you want to say or shout out you want to give before we close it up?
Yeah, I just want to give a big shout out to my staff at eUnited, John, Isaac, Ryan, Will too, everybody, and our new interns. You guys are absolutely crushing it, and really appreciate everything that you guys do on a daily basis. And most importantly, thank you, Ashcast, for having me on here. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, and I really enjoy talking about esports in general, and it's always fun to kind of reminisce and talk about the past. If it was a Sunday night at a bar, this is usually what happens in esports. People talk about the past. They talk about all the funny stories that have transpired over the past decade, and it's always a blast. So thank you, and I hope your podcast sees lots of success.
Thank you, man. Well, I had a celebrity like Burns on it, so it's only up from here, right? Like,
I think so.
Thank you so much for being on it again. It's truly an honor and a pleasure. Thank you all so much for listening and for watching. If you're watching, we're going to be uploading these every week, so stay tuned for that. We'll see you all on the next Ashcast.
Yep. Thank you, guys. See ya.